Hello, listeners to Radio Entrepreneurs. We're back again. My name is Jeffrey Davis. I'm the host of Radio Entrepreneurs, also CEO, founder of Mage, a management consulting firm since 1985, working with leaders of organizations to help them achieve their goals more easily, quickly, and efficiently. Our next guest is Christopher Schultz. Welcome. Owner, New Latitude Event Solutions, just down the street from me. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Tell us, Christopher, about New Latitude.
Sure. So New Latitude sort of came out of COVID. I think like a lot of folks who found themselves thrust into the entrepreneur genre of startups. I was working for a company right at the heart of COVID, and they ran into some issues and needed to downsize, shut down some issues, and I found myself a victim of COVID downsizing. Nobody else was hiring and needed to do something with that, with my skill set to keep my family afloat and keep my business, keep my ideas afloat. And I decided to start working with nonprofits, actually. I realized that there were an awful lot of businesses that were struggling with the idea that going remote was a challenge and they didn't know what to do. So I took some of my skills, which was dealing with AV and computer sciences, and decided to offer those services to small businesses that couldn't afford some of the larger providers, especially when it came to events and meetings. A lot of the platforms out there were charging $20,000, $30,000 for a meeting, and some of the small operations and nonprofits can't afford that. And I saw an opportunity in that niche, so I stepped in and started providing those services here on the Cape and regionally to some other businesses. And did that for a while until things started to open back up again. And some folks suggested that I get back into some live event production. I have a lot of experience working with themed events, such as the Cape Cod Pirate Festival and a few others. So I decided to move into promoting those on my own and starting those up. And that's where I am now. Now we primarily focus on promoting live themed events, and I'm working with a couple of nonprofit organizations to develop an organization that focuses specifically on areas with economic challenges and economic need to bring themed events that will bring in tourism dollars, attention, and awareness to those regions.
Well, that's quite interesting. And, I guess where you're located, things have changed a lot. Is that a 12-month-a-year activity, doing events?
It sure is. It sure is. I don't think people realize when you're doing an event, even if it's a 1 weekend or a 2 weekend event, if you're not in the business, they think, oh, just a few months. And it is a year-round planning process. As soon as the festival that we have coming up is done, we immediately do a postmortem, kind of examine what we did well, what we didn't do well, come up with a strategy for the next year, take a couple of weeks to breathe, and then we're right back in it planning that one. And then when you add multiple events a year, it is definitely an ongoing process all year long.
So let's go back into your background. What was your evolution that sort of led you to this?
Gosh, so I have been involved in property management for the better part of my career, mostly hotels and hospitality. I actually was part owner of a small hotel property here on Cape Cod in the early aughts. And anybody who lived in the region, well, anybody in the country will remember that around 2008, 2009, things were not going well. That business shut down and we were in the middle of a recession. And I decided to fall back on a hobby, which was performance and performing. I started doing work as a tour guide in Boston, driving buses, and dressing up as a colonial and doing tours on the Freedom Trail, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So a hobby of performing in my free time turned into a career that was generating some money for me. And then I got into operations and management, and I ended up becoming a special events director for an organization in Florida that produced the Florida Renaissance Festival. Really found a niche there that I fit into well, working with those types of folks and kind of juggling all of those different pieces. And it just seemed like a natural progression that once I moved out of property management and moved out of hotel management and moved into an entrepreneurial track, it just made the most sense to go in that direction. So that's what we did, and I've been loving every minute of it.
It actually sounds like you went from one side of the coin to the other, from being sort of the event yourself to planning those events.
It did. It did. Well, I have an advantage in the fact that a lot of people I would perform with were just performers. They didn't come from a business background. Um, and that has helped me out a lot in the sense that I can approach artistic and creative adventures with a business acumen. I don't know how great it is, but at least I can approach it with a business point of view and realize the need to make sure that it's fiscally viable. And that's always helped. That's also that dual side of the coin has also helped me in business adventures because I can deal with creatives and deal with some innovative approaches, I like to think, to common business problems that other people might not have thought of. So it definitely brings me some opportunities to branch out with skill sets that help me in both areas.
Well, I apologize for what I'm going to say next. I'm sort of picturing you with a black patch over your left eye and a little triangle hat, and it's not hard to imagine. Tell us about the Cape Cod Pirate Festival, because
Well,
that one's kind of interesting.
it's a lot of fun, and I'll tell you, you're not far off. In fact, my logo is actually a picture that was taken of me at one of the festivals. So that I just sent that out and had them recreate that. I figured that was the easiest thing. So if you squint a little bit, technically that's me on the logo there. Pirate Festival is one of several events that we produce. I also produce the Jewelry City Steampunk Festival in Attleboro, and I produce a Dickens Fair, the Dickens of a Christmas in Harwich, which had its first year last year on Harwich Center, and it was really, really well received. Pirate Festival itself, very typical of what you would expect from like a Ren Fair or a Pirate Fair. It runs for 2 weekends, and we bring in different entertainment from all over the country. I've got 5 stages of entertainment and an entertainment manager who helps me direct those folks. Food trucks, food vendors, craft vendors who are offering nautical wares, pirate themed stuff, costumes, props, sometimes knickknacks for your home, really neat tchotchkes that you can bring home with you. And we have games that people can come and play. We actually have a great partnership this year. We've struck up with the Cape Cod Maritime Museum, and they're going to be running our Kids Cove. So we have an entire area with STEM-inspired activities for kids and families. We have a pub in the center of the festival that's run by a group called the Harlot Queens, which is a singing group, and they turn that into a sort of a cross between Ellen's Stardust Diner in New York and Coyote Ugly, where the ladies who are pouring your beers will also break out into song and tell jokes and really turn it into almost a theatrical experience itself. So it's really a great opportunity to come out and have some fun. I have a lot of fun doing it, and we've seen some phenomenal growth with that particular event as we're going into our 4th year. We're anticipating some really strong numbers and hoping to see it continue to grow over the next decade.
And Chris, where does that event happen on the Cape?
So it happens in Yarmouth. For the past 2 years, we've been at a different location, which is currently under renovation. So temporarily, we have relocated to what is called the Simpkins Field, which is right across from the Yarmouth Town Hall.
Right.
Yeah, and it's where the Seaside Festival is held, and they have a lot of other events in that space too. So it's a good fallback for us. Usually we're at a site that's a little closer to the water, which fits in better with the pirate theme. But I think this year, with the expanded entertainment and the more centralized location, I think we're still going to see some pretty remarkable growth.
And what date will that be?
That will be June 1st, 2nd, 8th, and 9th. So the first 2 weekends of June.
I'll definitely have to tell my wife about that one.
I hope
We've
you
been
guys will
speaking
come
with Chris.
out.
Yeah, I'll be there, except I don't have that pirate look like you do. We've been speaking with, I'm more the Billy Crystal look.
It worked. You could do a Miracle Max costume. You'd fit in
Okay.
right.
We've been speaking with Christopher Schultz, owner of New Latitude Event Solutions. Christopher, clearly very accomplished. If someone's looking for you, needs your help, wants to know more about your events, how do they find you?
Sure. So if they're looking for the Pirate Festival, they can go to capecodpiratefest.com. If you're looking for more of our digital services like we used to do, or you have an event for an idea for an event that you'd like to execute, you can reach me at chris@newlatitudeevents.com.
Great. Great talking to you. Hope you come back again, Chris.
Pleasure.
And I remind all our listeners, we are radio entrepreneurs.